Life doesn't come with an instruction manual. What if it didn't? Wouldn't it be so much easier than for us to try to figure it out all on our own? It's really frustrating when we have to wade through every single day and we're like, oh my goodness, I'm the adult in the room and I have to make all the decisions, right? It's not so easy to be that person. All right, now let's suppose that your life is complicated with not just all the everyday stuff, but let's suppose that it's complicated with clutter. And then there's no instruction manual. And now what? What do you do now? I get asked the question a lot. Where do I start? How do I get started with clutter? How do I get rid of some stuff that's like impeding my life and it's taken part of my sanity and it's creating chaos in my life? And where do I start? Well, if there was one easy answer, everybody would be doing it. Okay. But we have to have a couple of really tough conversations first, because if we go back to the root of what's causing the discomfort, we then can move forward, right? We have to have the conversation about what is it that got us here first. So I want to stop for a second and I want to draw attention to the fact that lots of people, when they deal with clutter, the first thing that's coming to their mind is, I have stuff, physical stuff I need to get rid of, right? Dealing with the physical stuff is okay. But if it's connected with emotions, which most of the time it is, it's connected with sentimental issues and feelings of a sense of self-worth and what have you. If we don't deal with the emotional side of it first, all of this stuff is going to come back into our lives. And we've seen this over and over and over again as people have cleared out their garages and their attics and their, scary drawers or whatever it is. They get rid of this stuff. They tidy everything up. They go to the Dollar Tree and they buy all these little stackable bins and, separating bins and whatever. And everything looks really nice for a minute. And then it all soon revolves and goes back to the way that it was, right? Because we haven't dealt with the underlying issues first. If you're here today, I am super glad and I want to thank you. I'm Angela Brown, and many of you, if you have joined me here before, you know that I'm a house cleaner. I've been in the house cleaning industry for 32 years. I know, 32 years. January 7th was 32 years, a long time. But the reality is, as we've worked in thousands of families' homes, we've seen varying levels of clutter. And it caused me to stop and say, what is it that's causing this? What is the root of this and how can I help? And so what I'm sharing with you today is not based on me having a PhD in psychology or any of these things, right? I'm not licensed for this. I'm just a house cleaner. And I'm sharing with you my observations over a 32-year career working with thousands of families and then training house cleaners that go inside people's homes and dealing with thousands of families. So thousands and thousands and thousands of families that we've worked with over the course of 32 years. These are my observations. A couple things that I want to do today is I'm going to give you some homework here. I want us to stop and have a conversation with ourselves to say, what is the root cause of what's either causing me to feel this way or my concern with having a family member who is associated and connected with clutter, right? So that's what today's conversation is all about, so that we can really take a deeper look and figure out what it is that's got us in this situation in the first place. Judy's here. Hey, Judy, good to see you. I see that Jilly Bean is here. Hi, Jilly Bean. Good to see you guys. And as we get started today, from clutter to clarity, this is what I really want to focus on. I want to focus on, we have clutter in our lives, but what is the clarity behind it? What is it that's actually causing us to feel this way? Now, if we look at when we started, this goes back to the early parts of our lives. We started out very small and with no stuff. Now, this is not a joke. We came into the world with nothing. We leave the world with nothing. It's the time in between that really makes the difference, right? When we were young, we were very small. That's who we were as a person. Very, very small. We had no cares in the world. We had no stuff. And so what we were leaning on as a tiny child is we were leaning on an adult to love us and validate our feelings. And so we didn't have any control over it. We didn't know we had any control over it. There was nothing we could do as an infant, right? We were completely dependent on someone else for our love, for our food, for our attention. And what did we do? We learned how to scream. We learned how to cry. We learned how to get people's attention so that it would validate us. And if you've ever had a crying, screaming baby, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? we didn't have any stuff and we didn't care about stuff when we were infants, but that's who we were. I bring this up for the fact that who we are today is going to paint a very different picture of who we were back then. And back then is different for everyone. Back then is whatever it is we did that got us here, right? Because as we go through clutter, what we're looking at is we're looking at a lifetime of stuff that we've accumulated that now we have to deal with. And so the reason we're having this other conversation is so that we can go back to the beginning and we can take a look at how did we get here so that now we have a roadmap. And I say a roadmap. For example, if I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, which I am, and I was going to go to Seattle, Washington, I can't go to Seattle, Washington until I first know where I am. If I'm going to make a map and I'm going to drive, it says, where are you starting from? If I don't know where I'm starting from, it can't make me a very good map. It can just randomly pick a place. But if I say I'm going from here to Seattle, it's going to say, where is here? And if I know where here is, then it will say, oh, you are so many hundreds of thousands of miles away or whatever. And it will give me a direction, right? What we need to do in our lives is the exact same thing. We have to figure out, how did we get here? So in the beginning, we were dependent on other people. All right. The next part, as we grew up, we got stuff. We didn't care about stuff. As a toddler, we didn't care about stuff. We probably had one special item that we really just cherished, and it was our special item that really meant something to us specifically. We probably carried it with us everywhere we went, and that was our security, right? We felt safe when we had that one item around us. Now, sure, there are other items in our lives as a toddler. And of course, we have food and dishes and all the stuff that, like, as adults, we're aware of. We weren't aware of dishes when we were a kid. We weren't aware of, the household items. They were just part of the house. We were also part of the house. We carried our one little stuffed animal and we carried it with us everywhere. Maybe it was a blanket, right? That was our security. What we found was when we were sad or we were unhappy and we clung to that item, it would give us security. So we associated our security with stuff. Really, for the first time, our security came with stuff, right? It was that one item. Now, it's interesting because even as adults, some people are still holding on to stuff as if that's going to provide love and security. Stuff doesn't provide love and it doesn't provide security, right? All it does is it fills a void. And so maybe when we were young and we were sad and we held onto our little blanket or our stuffed animal and it filled that void, we found comfort in that thing. And if somebody tried to take it away from us, we'd have a conniption. My point is, as our lives progressed, the stuff that we held on to for security got bigger and bigger. I want to stop for a second and I want to say hi to, we've got Winmar FBD from Michigan. That's so exciting. Hello, I'm super glad that you're here today. We've got Fran Thompson from Arizona. We have A Rashi. Hey, how do I forward this to a friend? That's an excellent question. There's a replay link and it's the YouTube link that you're on right now. You can hit share underneath the video and share it to a friend and they can get it that way and then just watch the video. Thank you for asking. Judy's Bakery and Test Kitchen says, I love Charlotte. I know, I do too. I came back here in 1988. I was from Utah, which was land of the snow. This is a quick sidebar. And I did not like snow. I did not like the cold. Okay. I'm not a skier. I'm not a snowman. And then I came out to North Carolina and it was lovely weather. Probably 10 months out of the year. It gets cold in the wintertime, like, 40, 50 degrees, but we don't have any snow. And I was like, what? I'm never leaving. And so I've had a home or a residence in Charlotte ever since 1988. So I'm a huge fan. It's served me really well. So Liz says, hello from Texas. Hi, Liz. Great to see you here. I'm so glad that you guys have joined us. Melanie is also from Texas. You guys, this is an awesome turnout. Thank you so much for joining me here. So for those of you that are just joining us, what we're talking about is the root of when we started consciously hanging on to stuff that provided comfort. And when was it for you? And if you can consciously remember the first time that you held on to stuff as your comfort, make a note. I'm curious to know, when was the first time you realized I was really into books, or I had a special animal that I held on to, or a special blanket? What was that for you? I'm curious. It's different for every person, but there's a trail that leads back to the very beginning of when we started filling that void with something in our lives that we call stuff. So as a tiny child, it went from one item to other items. Suddenly we had to choose. And this is, I don't know, typical of every kid. We have grandparents that want to spoil the grandkid. And so for the birthdays and the Christmas, they give lots of gifts, or every time they come, they give gifts, or every time you go to see them, they give gifts. In many families, there's a divorce. And so shared rights of the kid, and the kid will go stay part-time with dad and part-time with mom and back and forth. And then the parents try to outdo each other with gifts. And so they buy stuff for the kids. And then the kids are like, oh, my mother loves me because she gave me all this stuff, right? And so we associate the stuff with love. What we really need is one-on-one time with mom, but mom's now a single mom and she's now working. And so in order to fill the void, like she doesn't want to feel like a lousy parent, gives the kid stuff, right? So then the kid is like, oh, my mom loves me. She's working so hard and is never around. Oh, but she gave me this stuff. This must mean love. And so at a very early age, we have to make a choice. Do I want this thing that dad gave me? Do I want this thing that mom gave me? Which loves me more? Things don't love you. It's a void. It's filling a void. And if we were to stop and think through it logically and say, my parents did love me and they were working so hard to provide for me that I would have nice things, that was how they showed their love. That's not love. It's the way they showed their love. It was an outward expression of their love, right? So there's a very big difference. And so when we hang on to the stuff can't love you back. It's just inanimate objects, right? And so we have placed, it's like, what do you call it? Projection. Like we've taken this love and we've put it inside things. And like, so this thing loves me back. The thing doesn't love you back. It's just a thing, right? But to us, it means something because it came from your mom or it came from your dad or it came from your nana or whatever, right? But now we had to make a choice. It wasn't just one item that gave me comfort, lots of items. And so as kids, we end up saving lots of items because they were meaningful to us. And then as we get older, our parents are like, oh, I gave that to my daughter to express my love. I can't get rid of that. You see where we're headed with this? I can't get rid of that because even though she's now grown and she's outgrown these toys, I gave this to her as an expression of love. If I take it away and I donate it, that means what? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it doesn't mean you love her anymore, right? That's not true. You still love your daughter. The stuff just has to go because it's in a state of processing, right? Do you see how we've kind of tripped up along the way by associating all these weird feelings with stuff, right? And in an honest, unconventional sort of way. I mean, we meant no harm, right? But do you see how it's starting to accumulate? All right, now this is just a tiny child. Imagine what happens when you get a little bit older. Before we get a little bit older, I want to stop and say hello to Liz. Says Charlotte is fantastic, not so much cement, varied geography, great people, etc., etc. And yes, a quick note on the Charlotte. When I moved here, it was a really small town, and it has just exploded. And so, I mean, over the last 30 some years. But what's really cool about it is every time I drive through town, I see like new apartment buildings and office buildings. I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? Almost as if it grew up overnight. It's really amazing. Whoa, I know, fast growing city. We wanted cool stuff so that friends would like us. This is typical of kids. This is typical of adults. It's typical of teenagers. It's typical of really a way of expressing ourselves. If we have cool stuff, then we'll be one of the cool kids. And if we're one of the cool kids, what does that mean? That means people will love us if we're one of the cool kids, right? And so as tiny children, especially if the parents are divorced, and especially if they've been showing their love with things, you know, you can play dad against mom and go, hey, I really want this new, in this picture, it was a skateboard. I want this new skateboard. And mom's like, no, we can't afford it right now. And dad's like, oh, sure, your mother can't afford it, but I can. And then to show his love, he buys you the skateboard, right? And so now if it's something that you really wanted, now you have a tendency to play your parents against each other, which is never healthy, but kids do it. And then the parents trying to show their love, they conserve on groceries and, you know, other budgetary items and whatever to try to get the kids the nice things that the kids thought were meaningful. And what's really sad about it is we're not talking about a skateboard anymore. A kid wants a $1,200 iPhone, right? The things that kids want that they equate with love and acceptance and popularity have changed, right? It's really expensive now to have a kid and to play those games of popularity and what's the cool thing to have. Not cheap anymore. But what happens is there's no I'm good enough as I am. And somewhere along the way, with busy parents and parents who are trying to put food on the table, who are busy in their own careers, they have adult problems and issues. As tiny children, we don't have any of those worries. All we have the worry of is, oh no, I'm going to go hang out with my friends at school. My friends have things I don't have. I must not be important. And we equate our self-worth with the stuff that we have. Okay. And so it gets really confusing because as our lives progress and we start accumulating more stuff, we're attaching more and more emotions onto that. It's like the snowball rolling down the hill. If it's just a small snowball or a small, handful of snow, as that rolls down the hill, it just keeps picking up bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the time it gets to the bottom of the hill, not only is it a much larger snowball, but it's actually rolling a lot faster because it's picked up momentum. And this is how it happens in our lives. We start out with what? The one security blanket or the one teddy bear. And as that ball starts rolling down the hill and we're picking up stuff from Nana and divorced dad and divorced mom and busy mom and then school teachers and all these other people in our lives. Oh, wait, we have friends. We got to get stuff for cool points. That snowball starts building and it starts getting really big. And as it rolls down the hill, we're picking up a whole lot of stuff from everywhere else. So it's no wonder that even kids, and we see lots of kids who have lots of stuff. I got to have the new latest Legos or whatever. As a person, it has nothing to do with their self-worth as a person. It has nothing to do with their value as a human being. It has everything to do with either cool points or they want it because their friends had it, right? If their friends didn't have any of that stuff, would they still want it? Is it because they absolutely love the thing, or is it because they're trying to get cool points? And it's a really fair question to ask, because what happens is we learn from other people. And so as we progress through our lives, for example, let's say that you go to junior high and high school. As a female, you go inside the restroom and you see all these other girls and they have these long, beautiful hair and they've got like the latest crimping iron. It was a crimping iron when I was young. I don't even know if they still make them. But then you walk in and you're looking around and then you're like, oh no, inferiority sits in. I don't have a crimping iron. I must not be cool. Right? We watch them putting on makeup and you're like, oh, my mom won't let me wear makeup yet. I must not be cool. And so we take our cues from other people and we later call it keeping up with the Joneses, but it starts at a really young age. And so we're not cool if we don't have the same stuff our peers have, right? And so we want all the cool stuff just so that we will be accepted by our friends and so that we will be considered to have the cool, popular stuff. It's really kind of an unfortunate situation because, again, most of the stuff that we're looking at as far as being a kid or the way that you dress or the clothes that you wear or the handbags that you have, it has nothing whatsoever to do with who you are as a person. It has everything to do with your perceived value of you as a person. Does that make sense? It's a little bit confusing, but check this out. Nobody ever said, oh my goodness, you're gonna love meeting my friend Brenda. She has the best handbag you've ever seen. Nobody ever said that. They don't. That's not what they say. They say you're gonna love meeting my friend Brenda because she's a really cool person and she's really nice and she makes you laugh or something like that, right? People don't say, oh, you're gonna love my sister Julie. She wears the most awesome blue jeans ever. No, people don't say that either. Julie does have awesome blue jeans, by the way, but that's not how she's introduced. That's not how she's known by her friends, by her peers, by her clients, by anybody, right? Nobody says, oh my goodness, you're not going to believe the friends I have, that car that they have. They might have a nice car, but that's not how we associate with people. The way that we think of people is we think of them in terms of they brought value into my life, right? We had a really tough conversation last week about building trust issues with people. And it comes back to, do we trust ourselves? We cannot trust ourselves until we actually know the root of what it is we're trusting. Why are we here and why are we doing it, right? So it's a really great conversation to have because it kind of puts us then on the map so that we can go from Charlotte to Seattle. Now we know where the starting point is and now we can move forward. So is it awesome to have, the cool stuff that our friends had in high school? I remember in high school, I went to 1 year public high school. I was homeschooled, and I went to 1 year public high school so that I could see academically where I was with other kids my age. And I remember the popular girl of the school came over one day to my house. And I was really embarrassed that she came over to my house because we were not cool. I was not cool. I was not popular. I was not cool. I didn't have any of the brand name clothes. I didn't have any of the stuff. I had been to a party at her house, and she lived in this really rich, fancy mansion that had a swimming pool in their backyard. This girl was like super pretty. She was on the cheerleading team. Everybody was friends with her. And I just was embarrassed that she came to my house because we'd grown up on a farm and we were just normal, everyday, average people. And I didn't have any cool points. So she came to my house and I was kind of like, do I apologize? Do I invite her in? Do I keep her outside because she's going to see like my house isn't as pretty on the inside as her house? And I felt really inferior. And I was a teenager. What's interesting about the story is I invited her for a walk. I thought if I can get her off my property, she won't see that, we've got recycled stuff and, hand-me-downs and that kind of thing. So we went for a walk. And while we were talking, she made a very interesting observation. She said, I have everything. And she said, my parents have given me everything, anything a kid could ever want. And she said, but you have something I don't have. I said, really? What is that? And she said, your family shows up for all of the track meets and they cheer you on. And my parents are working and they're too busy. And she said, I would give everything that I had to have my family just show up and watch one of my races or participate in my events. And I thought, so it's not about the stuff. And it kind of got me thinking, because even at a high school age, she had everything. She had all the cool points and she had all the cool friends and she had the great looking boyfriend and all that stuff. But what she was looking for is she was looking for that sense of validation that does not come from stuff. See where we're headed with this? It's not in the stuff. All right. But it's a really interesting conversation to have. We connect being cool to having the right stuff. And one of the interesting things that I was also painfully aware of in high school is that all the kids that were my age were getting vehicles. And their parents were buying them cars because now they had turned of age and they were like 16, 17, 18. And the parents were just giving their kids cars. And I wondered, well, my parents ever buy me a car because I'm of that age too, right? And my parents sat us down one day, and I'm one of 19 kids. My parents sat us down and they said, hey, we love the fact that your friends' parents are just buying them cars. Yay for your friends and their parents. Not yay for us. Okay. They said, we're not going to be able to do that. And we just wanted to give you a heads up. We will never buy you a car ever. And we're like, oh, all right, there you go. And they said, and we will never put you through school. Okay. We're not going to pay for your college education. If you want to go to college, you need to be academically smart enough that you win a scholarship, or you're going to need to get a job so that you can pay for your own way. And I thought, okay. And it wasn't cruel. It was just the way it was. Imagine trying to buy 19 cars for kids on a farmer's upbringing. Not going to happen. And imagine trying to pay for college for 19 kids on a farmer's upbringing. They provided us with all the food that we ever wanted. We had a roof over our head. We were self-sufficient. We had everything we ever needed or wanted. There were just other things outside those parameters that they made it very clear to us. You need to earn these. These are not going to be given to you. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, so those are the parameters. I get it. That's fine. But there's a certain window where all your friends have cars and you're like, how do I get a car? How do I get what they have? And I remember kids going to school and then they got cool jobs. And that last year that I was in high school, there were kids that were getting jobs at McDonald's. And that was really cool because now they would have their own money. And I thought maybe I should go get a job at McDonald's, right? And the wheels were churning in the back of my head. I was thinking, okay, I'm not cool. I don't have the cool points. I don't have the cool stuff. I don't have the cool clothes. I don't have a car. I don't have a job. Like, how do I get cool, right? And it's a fair question. And so I think intrinsically, all of us want to be validated. All of us want to be loved. All of us want to be popular. We want to be accepted. We want people to accept us for who we are without questioning our every motive or without shaming us or making us feel bad. And so through the course of our lives, a lot of things happen. But I remember thinking to myself, if I had a car, would that make me happy? And I thought about it for a really long time. And I decided as a teenager, having a car will give me mobility. It's going to get me from point A to point B. But happiness itself is not going to be by getting a car. I'm just going to have a whole lot of car payments. And if I don't have a job, it's only going to make me sad, because then I'm going to have to pay for a car payment and pay for car insurance and gas for the car and all that other stuff that you got to do when you're an adult. And it's not going to make me happy if I'm not already happy first. Let me say that again. Having the stuff is not going to make you happy unless you are happy first. It's one of the toughest lessons that we ever learn. And the reason that I bring it up is this. Many people have stuff. And as their lives progress, they have more and more and more and more stuff. I do like this. Like this means I'm collecting more stuff. But the more stuff we have, the happier it does not make us. If everything that we brought into our life gave us like 1% more happiness, oh yeah, bring it on. Let me get all the stuff, right? But it doesn't. The stuff itself doesn't bring us happiness. Having a car would not make me happier. It would just give me more mobility. And the mobility might make me happy, but the car itself, the physical, tangible metal and wheels, was not going to make me happy. And so I held off getting the car until I actually moved across the country when it made more sense. And I did have a job, and then I was able to go ahead and pay for it when I wasn't stressing out. And then like maybe I got to run to my parents and borrow money after they told me that, they didn't have money for a car and all that stuff. Think about it. Do you really need the stuff you have? Interesting conversation, because as a kid, what was interesting is we equated our being cool with having the right stuff. All right. We also earned approval from having the right status. Now, you would think that, well, that's just normal. Going to high school, getting a degree, that's just normal. Everybody does it, right? Well, no, they don't. There I was, a year into public school, and I didn't have any public school credits, and I wasn't able to graduate. So I not only did not have a car, I did not have a job, I did not have the right cool clothes or whatever. Now I didn't even have the status of graduating from high school. I had to go to the Central Piedmont Community College in Charlotte once I moved. And it was like this school for kids that dropped out or whatever. And I had to go get my GED. And I'm like, well, I guess that's how you do it if you don't graduate high school, right? I had a tough time because I didn't even get the status of graduating, right? But we equate the success with that cap and gown moment where we're then tossing our hat in the air and we're like, hey, look, I'm like everyone else, right? It's an interesting pivot from just having stuff to having status. I'm a graduate, right? Once you're a graduate, now you have a status. Now you can go in and ask for a job. And it may not have to be at McDonald's. It might even be at an office building, because now you're a high school graduate. You now have a degree, or you have a graduation, whatever it's called, a certificate. You graduated. All right, now what does that mean? That means that people will look at you differently for the rest of your life, right? And so when we go to get a job, what are we doing? We're trying to find something that will fill the void in our life, that will give us that sense of, oh yeah, look at me now. Yeah, I had a bunch of stuff. I was popular. I had friends. I got a degree. I had status. Look at me now. I got a real job. Well, I got a job as a nanny. There's no status there. Raising people's kids, there's no good status there other than, helping humankind and raising tiny people. And then I got a job as a house cleaner. That's not a big status job. You don't win any brownie points for being a house cleaner in most cases. The people whose homes we cleaned really appreciated what we did for them. But you don't go to parties and check it out. I'm a house cleaner, no brownie points there. And so you have to really stop and say, what are you associating with your self-worth? Because if you are taking your status and you're building that onto the job that you get, what does that mean in terms of how successful you are as a person, right? I can't tell you how many people that I've known over the years that have said, oh yeah, well, look at me. I have a fancy title. And they equate their sense of self-worth with the title that they have. Now, you ask me, this has nothing to do with clutter. Oh, but it does. Because what happens is, as we progress through our lives and we start adding the things on, like we were talking about the snowball rolling down the hill, as we start adding things on, we're now adding stuff with the achievements, and with the titles. And so if any of those are taken away, it takes away part of our sense of self-identity. It takes away part of our self-worth, and our confidence drops. And we're like, wait a second, maybe I'm not special anymore, right? And so then what do we have to do? We have to roll the snowball faster. We have to go faster and get more achievements, and we have to get more success, and we have to get better titles, and we have to get better stuff so that we can build up the voids in our life so that we're once again cool and we're on top. My question to you is this: who's judging? Who's judging that grand finale of who you are as a person and your sense of self-worth? Who's judging that? There are phases that we go through in our lives. And one of the early phases, and this is the phase that we're in today, this is what we're talking about today, is the early phases of our lives. In the early phases, we're not really consciously aware of all of the changes that are going on in our lives. And we're not consciously aware that we've changed multiple times as a person. Here's what's really interesting. As the tiny baby, it's a very, very different person than the toddler that had the one toy. Very different person, maybe even twice as big. The awareness of the things going on in the world around them is twice as big as it was when they were an infant. And then when they're the teenage girl or the preteen that wants the skateboard, completely different person than when they're the toddler, right? Completely different person. And the awareness is, oh, there are people out there, friends. I go to friends' houses and they have, a little kitchenette that the daughter plays with. I don't have one of those. The daughter has a doll. I don't have one of those. And they start being aware that now you got to have stuff to be cool. And because you want your friends to like you and you want to have your friends over and you want to have that same environment that they had, we start equating our worth as a person with those things. Every single phase of our lives, we're a completely different person. If we were to go back to the time we were an infant, whoa, what would that look like now? Most people are like, no, thank you. I've learned too much, right? Our education changes, our awareness changes, our learning changes, and we become very different people. And so as an adult, you are now very different than all the different versions of you. Not to negate any of those versions, because at every step along the way, that version of who you were is all you knew. That is the best information you had. That is the best information that you knew. And so you made the best decisions you could with the information you were given, right? That's all anyone can ask. But now that you're older and you're wiser and you've been through a lot more stuff, you have different choices to make as an adult, right? It's not just about having a great job so that you can get the approval ratings from your friends about, oh yeah, look at me, I have a fancy title, right? Our sense of self-worth sometimes is connected to the titles of the jobs that we have. And so people will fight for things like, I'm going to become the boss, or I'm going to become the manager, or I'm going to become whatever. And we work our way up the corporate ladder so that we will be appreciated and so that we will be viewed differently than we're being viewed right now. Because what does it mean if we're viewed the way that we're being reviewed right now? What it means is we're stuck in a rut, right? If I could just get that promotion, then I would be happy. And I want to ask you a really honest to goodness question. Are you happy when? Or are you happy now? That's the question. Here's what it means. We talk to people and they say, well, I'll be happy when I get the new car. Okay. And then they get the new car and then what? Are you happy? Well, no, but I'll be happy when I get the new house. And so then they get the new house. Are you happy now? No, I'll be happy when we have the kids. Okay, you have the kids now. Are you happy? No, I'll be happy when the kids get off to school. Right now, they're just keeping me busy. The kids get off to school. Are you happy now? And they're like, no, I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so exhausted, but I'll be happy when the kids get out of school. And you're like, okay, cool. So the kids grow through their lives. Kids get out of school and you're like, hey, are you happy now? And they're like, no, I'm going to be happy when I can marry off these kids and just let them go off on their own. And you're like, okay, cool. Kids get married and they go off on their own. Are you happy now? No, I'll just be happy when I can be a grandparent. Okay. Finally, the grandkids start coming and you're like, hey, are you happy now? And they're like, no, I'm so overwhelmed, elder parents and, kids coming back from school, in between school and staying with us and yeah, I'll just be happy when all that's out of the way. I guess I have news for you. Being happy when never makes you happy. It's something that eludes you because it's way out there. Okay. If we're talking about clutter, Lots of people will fill the voids of their lives with stuff. Going back to when I was a tiny kid, this made me happy. Let me have more stuff. Maybe it will make me happy again. Oh, it didn't make me happy. Maybe I'll be more popular if I have more stuff. So they buy more stuff and it doesn't make them happy. And they go, oh, maybe I didn't accomplish enough. Let me hurry and accomplish more things. Then I will be happy. And they accomplish more things. And so we keep adding more stuff, like just hoping and praying that somewhere along the way, we're going to find happiness. And I got a news flash for you. The happiness doesn't have anything at all to do with the stuff. Not at all. The stuff is just a crutch that we're leaning on until we catch our balance. Wow. Okay, so check this out, because this is kind of fun and kind of exciting. Our success was showcased by our lifestyle. If I just get the house and I have the kids and I live in the really nice neighborhood, then it all comes together for me, right? This is the moment where finally I have arrived. I'm a homeowner, and we equate all of our success with being a homeowner and how good that feels. And we volunteer at the PTA at the new school, and we volunteer to be part of the HOA because everybody loves the Homeowners Association. I'm kidding. No, don't put it in the comments. We've all been there. we probably all have one of those Homeowners Association organizations that's just kind of like needling us on the back, right? But we volunteer with things that are now part of the new version that we have of ourselves. I will be happy when, and we equate our sense of self-worth with the success and the stuff that we have. And then what? What does it all mean? Did it pay off? Is it paying off for you really big time right now? Or are we still in a state of, I'm going to be happy when? So we have kids, and our kids have achievements. And the cool part about the achievements is if we can make sure that our kids win the races and they win the competitions and they win the contests, what does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means suddenly I'm a good parent because my kid won all the stuff. Oh my goodness, we're taking all of our needs for feeling validated as a person, and now we're channeling that through a child that we have. And now that child is growing up thinking, oh my goodness, my parents love me when I win and I'm competitive and all these things, right? And so now we've channeled a bunch of whatever was not happening correctly in our lives onto the kid. And we've put all this extra pressure on kids. But we're a really good parent. And in order to make that happen for the kid, we will go out of our way. And I've seen this with lots of parents who hire house cleaners. They have 3, 4, 5 activities in the course of a day after school. So the kid can go to dance practice and piano lessons and Spanish lessons, and they can be on the soccer team and they can swim on the weekends and all this stuff, because they're going to be successful and their kid is going to be, the most, I don't know what, achieved or accomplished kid. And for what? Who are you competing against? Other kids? Because what happens is the parents become really overwhelmed with the go taxi end of it, but they're trying to validate their own feelings by putting this all on the kid. And the kid is really overwhelmed, like, man, I just want to go outside and play with a stick and a garbage can lid. I want to play sword and shield. And here I have to go to all this stuff. And then if they don't perform, or if they're super tired, we complain at the kids that they're falling asleep during school. And then now they're not good enough because we're frustrated with them, because they're not sleeping properly, because they are burned out, because they're cranky, they're tired, all these things, right? And the kid is like, how do I win? Well, they win by accomplishment and hanging on to stuff and filling the void, because that's all we knew. And if that's all we know as parents, that's what our kids get from us. And so they go out of their way to get our love and attention, which is a human need. They go out of their way to get our love and attention by trying to win the races and to try to always be the best, and and I'm not saying don't have your kids try to be the best. What I'm saying is, if they're doing it for the right reasons, because of their own inner drive or their own inner desire, that's awesome. But if it's just for filling a void and just for parental approval, it might make a lot more sense to everybody to stop and go have a picnic with your kid and throw a ball around and just have some casual one-on-one time with your kid where you guys could fly a kite or just do something that's lovely for both of you, that doesn't cost a boatload of money, that doesn't cost you both being stressed out and burned out in order to achieve these fake versions that we have of ourselves and what's going to make us happy, right? And the reason I bring this up, like I say, we've worked in thousands of people's homes, and I've heard parents say things like, oh, well, my son really must win this competition because I need him to have the trophy. I don't want that on anyone else's dresser. And I'm thinking, wow, the dresser is full of trophies already. What's one more? What does your kid get out of this? Is the kid loving the game? No, the kid hates the game, but here we are, we're going through the motions. Well, that's not healthy long-term, right? But we live these lives of piling stuff on because it's our self-worth. And because what, one day that's going to make us worthy of someone else loving us? The stuff doesn't love you back. And having more stuff doesn't make people love you more. Like I said, I never introduced my sister because she had cool jeans, or my friend Brenda because she had a cool handbag. The stuff that they have is completely materialistic and completely irrelevant to the relationship. What's really important is that they're valuable people in my life, right? When is the last time, this goes back to the conversation we had about the relationship of trust. And I will leave links below after this is over in the replay so that you guys can watch that if you haven't already. What's really important is building a relationship that will stand the test of time. What's really cool is this. I was telling you in that episode that we did about a relationship reboot that I did with my mom. And what's interesting about the relationship reboot with my mom, this is kind of an interesting concept. My mother is the longest relationship that I've ever had with anyone on planet Earth. The relationship I have with my mother. She knew me before I was born. And so for as long as I've been alive, and thank goodness she's still alive here with us, but she's the longest relationship that I have here on planet Earth. And there was a great big chunk of my life where I just thought she was like, really hormonal and pregnant and irritable, and I didn't want anything to do with her at all. Imagine not rebooting that relationship, because for the last 30 years, Mom and I have been like two peas in a pod. We're as close as two people can be, mother-daughter. But she's the best friend that I have in my life, aside from my husband. And the reason that I bring this up is because many of us have long-term relationships with people that are siblings, or they are parents, or they're our kids. And they're the longest lasting relationships that we have. And for many of us, we have annihilated those relationships in lieu of stuff. The stuff has come between us. The stuff has gotten in the way. And instead of saying, wait a second, stop, everybody stop for a second. What is really important about the lives that we're living right now, it's not about the stuff. Nobody ever went to someone's funeral and said, I'm really going to miss my mom. Boy, did she have a nice set of rosewood china. And, I just can't wait to eat on those dishes now that she's gone. Nobody said that. What they did is they sit there at the funeral and they remember stories about when Mom spent time with me, when Mom and I went on this trip, the funny things that Mom did, the things that mom said that made me laugh, right? It's the relationships. It's those times of trust where you were actually able to open your heart and you were able to share some one-on-one confidences with your mother when you were going through a really difficult time. Maybe it was raising kids. Maybe it was during a money issue where money was really tight and you needed just a listening ear. Maybe she wasn't going to loan you any money, but maybe you just needed a listening ear. Maybe you needed a piece of advice or some guidance. The reason I bring this up is before we can have relationships of trust, we have to really first trust ourselves. We have to know where we're coming from and where we started out. And then we have to be honest enough with ourselves that we can say, hey, wait a second. I'm not the truthful person that I want to attract into my life. And so if I want to attract more truthful people into my life, I need to be more truthful. If I want to attract people of trust into my life, I need to be more trustworthy. If I want to attract people into my life that are going to love me unconditionally, I need to know what that looks like. I need to practice unconditional love. Because I got news for you. We can just keep piling stuff on. And as that snowball rolls down the hill of life, it doesn't necessarily bring us any more joy. Now, I will share this with you. If you have stuff, it makes nice life really nice. It's just nice to have status and titles and fancy cars and fancy houses. And, it's really nice to have all that stuff. And I'm not gonna lie to you. If you have a whole bunch of money, it does reduce the pressure of bill collectors calling and things in our life where people, I don't know, want to borrow money and what have you. It makes it easier because you're in a different position. Okay. So I won't lie about that. It's nice to have that stuff, but that does not make you who you are. I remember as I was starting my house cleaning business, excuse me, I did not know a lot about sales and marketing. So I decided I would go out and I would interview a whole bunch of salesmen, and I would find out the inner workings of how sales work and what happens when you have achieved success. And I went out and I interviewed 300 salespeople. They were at the top of their game. I interviewed 100 CEOs and I interviewed 40 millionaires. And I asked them all a series of questions. I was like, how do you know when you've been successful? What does it look like once you've achieved that success? And what was really interesting, and it kind of blew my mind, and I was really young, I was like in my mid-20s when I did this. What was really interesting to me is the people that gave me answers back did not give me the answers I was hoping for. I thought they were going to say, well, when you do this, then you will be successful. Then you will be happy. Then you will have all these things. And what they said is, I am a millionaire and I'm working 100 hours a week and I've never been more stressed out and my health is really bad. Or they would say, I never knew that when I became a millionaire that I would have, or a boss or whatever it was, that I would have all of these employees and that I was responsible for putting food on all of their table, and that not being able to make payroll or whatever it was would keep me up at night. And that now that my children were out of the home and I wasn't stressing about that, I had a whole new set of stressors. And so all of the things that I kept hearing was, it never ends. Whatever you have only makes you more of who you are. So if you have more money and you're hoping, hey, when I have more money, I'll be successful. You will be successful, but whoever you are right now is only going to be enhanced by the money. So if money is the end goal, instead of saying, I will be happy then, you won't. You will be whoever you are right now, exactly who you are, but you will have more money. That's the sad reality of it. I told you guys this was going to be a tough conversation, right? It is. Having money only makes you more of who you already are. If you're a philanthropist now, if you're willing to give the shirt off your back, if you have 2 shirts, you'll give one of them away or you'll give them both away. It's who you are. The more stuff you have, the more you can give, right? If you give of your time right now, if you have more money, you can outsource more things and you will have more time and you can give more of that away, right? But we have to stop and think, who am I right now? And how does that equate with my self-worth? Who am I? Now, it's interesting as I prepared this for you today, because there's an idea that if we have it all, then we'll be happy. And the news that I hate to share with you is that though you may have it all, that's only the beginning. It's only the beginning of life. It's not the end, it's just the beginning. And if I go back for a second to the phases of our lives, there's a phase, I went through the phases myself, where you want to be cool and you're either cool or you're not cool. I was not cool growing up. I was just kind of sandwiched in with a bunch of kids. I wasn't even cool in my own family. There were so many of us. I was just kind of a number and a name. You know what I mean? I wasn't the leader or anything. I was just one of the kids. And as I went out on my own, I didn't have any special skills. I have siblings that are incredibly talented in just about everything, and I don't seem to have any of those talents. I've got a sister that's like a concert pianist, and another sister that is just an amazing artist, and I've got a brother that's a musician, and a brother that's a woodworker, and they all have these crazy talents, and I just kind of like clean houses. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't have any special skills. But what it comes down to is we spend our time saying, when I have, then I will be. Right. And so through the growing up years, I got to have stuff. And then we get to a phase like it's when we start getting jobs. If I have a better title, if I have a better job, then I'll get more money and I can buy more stuff. And so we do. We work 100-hour weeks and whatever it is so that we can have more stuff. And then we end up buying the really nice cars and the really nice houses and taking the really expensive trips. And then what? Well, what happens is there's a new phase, and that's where we are right now. Before we can talk about clutter, we can talk about the reasons why we have all this stuff. What we have to talk about next is, now that we know where we started and there's a roadmap, now we have to know, how are we going to get there? And the next phase is not so much do, and have, but be. Who are we going to be that will actually make a difference in not only our own life, but in the lives of the people that we actually hold most dear? Because many people that are in cluttering and hoarding situations have alienated themselves from everyone, from close friends, from family, from relatives, from neighbors, because they're embarrassed and they're ashamed that what they have isn't good enough, that they're going to be judged, that they don't have trustful relationships where people love them unconditionally, and they're not willing to take the risk because they've been hurt too many times. And we've been hurt too many times because we have associated all of our value with stuff. And so as we start on this next part of our journey, because it's a really interesting journey that we're about to go on together, if we start just getting rid of the stuff, we can get rid of stuff only if we know where we've been and the role that it plays in our life. You've heard the clutter concept, one in, one out. And what it is if I get a new book, I have to get rid of an old book. If I get a new pair of jeans, I got to get rid of an old pair of jeans. If I get a new set of dishes, I got to get rid of an old set of dishes, right? What I want us to start thinking of, instead of one in, one out concept with the clutter, I want us to start thinking in, one out with the beliefs. And I know this sounds kind of heavy, but there's a reason we're doing this. Like I said, if we just get rid of the stuff, the physical stuff, without dealing with the emotional end of it, we're going to end up right back where we were, replacing that stuff to fill a void. And we're going to end up with extra storage units and stuff in the attic and stuff in the garage and stuff scattered and strewn all about the house, because we haven't actually dealt with replacing one old belief with a new one coming in. Here's the belief I want us to focus on as we're moving forward and as we're having these really tough conversations with ourselves and with our family. It's, am I a person that I can accept myself, number one, for who I am, where I am right now? Can I love myself first unconditionally? Because we are, in most cases, our own worst enemy. And so we look around our house and we're like, oh, I'm a failure as a person. My house is a mess. I'm no good. I'm not worthy. Right? I hear this every single day. People going, I'm not worthy. Worthy of what? Worthy of what? Who's judging you? And the answer is you. You're judging yourself. And can you wake up every day and go, guess what? I'm the most important person in my life today. And because I'm the most important person in my life, I value myself. I'm going to do something today to make a difference. I'm going to clean up the little area that I live in today because I'm worth it. And you're like, whoa, Angela, that sounds really arrogant and egotistical. It does. But guess what? I got news for you. Aside from my mother, that I've spent my entire life knowing, the next person that I've spent the most time with in my life, check it out. It's me. It's me. Every day when I wake up, I got to wake up with me. When I go to bed at night, I got to go to bed with me. I get up every single day, and all the thoughts that I got to process through the day, they're mine. What am I telling myself? And do I like myself enough that I'm like, you know what? I am worth it. I am worth the relationship with myself. I'm going to love myself unconditionally. I'm going to accept myself unconditionally. I'm going to take risks unconditionally, because even though other people might hurt my feelings, even though other people might not think I'm cool, even though other people might have cooler stuff than I have, or I don't have cool points with them, check it out. I just gave myself some cool points. I accept myself for who I am. Because guess what? This I cannot deny. You will live with yourself every single day, 7 days a week, every week, for every year, for the rest of your life, as you have every week before now, right? You get to live with yourself forever. So here's the secret moving forward. Don't focus on getting rid of all the stuff and decluttering your house and getting rid of paper and where do I start and all that stuff. Where do you start? You start right now and you take an honest look at yourself and you say, do I like myself? And if you like yourself, yay, give yourself a pat on the back. Do I love myself? And if you don't love yourself, get to a point where you can. Do you trust yourself? And we talked about this on another episode. Again, I'll leave links below. Do you trust yourself? Trust comes from doing things in a reliable way over and over and over and over again, and being the kind of person that people can count on. But if you can't count on yourself, do not expect anyone else to count on you either, right? You have to be the kind of person that you can count on under all circumstances. You have to be the person that gives yourself a high five at the end of the day and goes, you know what? You gave everything today. Good for you, right? Because what happens when you start loving yourself and you start being unconditional with yourself and saying, hey, I'm not perfect, but I did my very best today. I got up today and I did my very best. When you go to bed at night, you're going to go to bed with your head held high. And all of a sudden, all the stuff that we're talking about, the great big snowball that's been rolling down the hill, all that stuff starts clearing itself out of the way. And all the chaos in your life starts to declutter itself. It's going to become natural and easy for you as you start accepting yourself for who you are. You're going to start making better decisions. You're going to start making better choices. When you get up in the morning, you're going to say, you know what? I have a choice today. I can feel miserable and I can complain and I can celebrate my aches and pains, or I can stop and go, you know what? I might have aches and pains, but guess what? There's still a whole lot of me that feels fantastic. And I'm going to focus on that part of me today. Yeah, my house might be a total wreck, but you know what? There's a little tiny trail right here in the middle and it is clear. And I'm going to march through that trail with pride, right? And so what happens is you take where you are and you build on that. Because I got news for you. It doesn't matter how much stuff you have. It doesn't matter how many titles you have. It doesn't even matter how much money you have, because you came into the world without any of it. And when you leave the world, you're not going to take any of it with you. The only thing that really matters is who are you while you're here and what comes next for you. Because the next phase of what we're doing, it's about who are you and what is your purpose. Because you did not come to earth to celebrate just a whole bunch of stuff that could eventually end up at a garage sale. I promise you that is not the meaning of life. All right, that's it for today. We got a couple of questions here, and I have not answered many of you. I think I got talking here, and you guys were hanging out with me. Judy says, when I was in my 20s, my friends thought I was it, the end of the stress and dating. Then we find it was the beginning of a new chapter of relationship. I love that, and I would love to hear this story. It sounds like there's more. This is exciting. In our 20s, though, we're very different people than we are today, right? Jilly Bean says, "Amen to us being our own worst enemy. Why are we so very understanding and supportive of others, but so hard on ourselves?" I don't know. I don't know. Somewhere along the way, we gave ourselves permission that other people were more important than us, and that's not the case. That's not the case. We call it the mom syndrome, where we go out of our way and we help everyone else because that's what moms do, right? And we find instead, if we were to help ourselves first, exercise first, better sleep, better diet, better everything, then we are in a better position to then turn around and help other people. And as moms, they're the most tired. They're the ones that feed themselves last. They're the ones that do last for themselves, and they do for everybody else first. And I don't know why. It's a great question. When you have an answer for that, please let me know. I don't know why we do that. Melanie says, this is one of the best ones yet. Thanks, Angela. Oh, thank you so much. This was really awesome. I love having you guys here, and I appreciate you sharing the good vibes and sharing this time with me. And then all the likes and all the stuff. Thank you. I think I have a button here. I think I'm able to do this. Let me see. How do I do this? Yay, I was able to leave some little heart eyes myself. And those are my heart eyes in return. I'm still figuring all this technology stuff out. But you guys, this was really awesome, and I appreciate you joining me here. As we go through this week, I do want to leave you with some homework. And the homework for this week is every single time, and this is just between us, okay? You don't have to tell anybody that you're doing this. Every time you walk past a mirror, I want you to look at yourself in the mirror. And I want you to look at yourself as if you're looking at your best friend. And I want you to say to yourself in the mirror, I'm really glad that you showed up. You just made my day. I love you. You're important and you mean something to me. Okay? Because like I said, you are the longest friend that you've had aside from your birth mother. That's if you lived your whole entire life with your mother. But you've lived with yourself, the next longest person on the planet, right? And so when you look at yourself in the mirror, be kind to yourself. And you might have woofy hair, like when you wake up in the morning, like me, and I'm like, whoa, spooky. But I love myself. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant, but you have to love yourself first. It has to come through you in order for you to be able to send it out to everyone else. And so, like Jilly Bean said, why do we do so much for everyone else before doing for ourselves? Your homework assignment this week is do for yourself. Make sure that you eat, make sure that you exercise, make sure that you sleep. And every single time you walk past a mirror, don't walk past it and like ignore it. Look yourself right in the mirror and go, yeah, you're the one I showed up for today. And give yourself a thumbs up, give yourself a high five. It's you loving yourself unconditionally that's going to help you get from here to the next destination of your life. All right, that is it for today. You guys, I'm super excited that you joined me. Thanks again. We'll be here same time, same place next week. And until then, have a really great week. I love you guys. I'm really glad that you joined me, and I appreciate this. Thank you.